there's a kind of science in Buddhism called mind training tradition, and it notices the problem of kind of deciding to do something and not doing it. I'm just kicking off the meditation challenge and starting off by just looking at the question of why do we meditate, and in a way, more importantly than kind of why we meditate or why we've come here, why do we carry on meditating? You know, because there's lots of things that we've taken up in our lives that have fallen by the wayside. I live with a good friend of mine, and we share a communal cupboard. And I have noticed, I've sort of brought up with her how many instruments are lying in that cupboard, never having been picked up since she got them. And I can kind of talk to her about that, but I can see things in my life as well where I've just started something and it's just I've not been able to carry on with it. So let's just hear a little few things. So we've a lot of you have heard those videos. There's been some videos from the Buddhist community about why I meditate. But let's just hear one or two snappy things from people who've meditated before, or if it's your first time, why you've come here. So who's brave enough to just say why they meditate? Yeah?
To respond, not react.
To respond, not react, yeah. What else? Anyone got a thought?
Come into relationship with myself.
Yeah, come in relationship with yourself, yeah. Yeah.
To be more present.
To be more present, yeah.
Maybe easier to live with.
That is a really good and helpful reason. Possibly why we should all get our friends involved as well. Anything else?
To see what's really going on.
To see what's really going on, yeah. One more.
To meditate together.
Yeah, to meditate together. There's quite a communal atmosphere, you know. It's amazing in Ephra Space, because here we've got this this room, and you know, if you come here early, you're kind of setting everything up, and then we're all meditating together, and something that you can't quite put words on even is created by all of us doing this together. So yeah, I'm glad that you thought that, actually. I think that's part of the reason for me too. So from a Buddhist perspective, actually it's interesting, because why we do something, we think we've got a lot of a set of kind of logical reasons why we take something up and why we might carry it on, but a lot of it is about our intuition. So the first reason and the primary reason we do something and the primary reason we carry on doing it is because we get an intuition. So with meditation, there's an intuition that you feel a sense of rightness. You know, you might feel it in your belly, a sense of rightness. Actually, this is for me. And I remember that myself when I first learnt to meditate, and I was 17 and the South London Centre was in Clapham at that time. The Brixton Buddhist community was in Clapham. And I went there, and I was very suspicious. I was very suspicious of what this meditation thing was going to be about and who was going to be there. And I went in, and the first thing I noticed was there was quite an unusual collection of people, because I was used to basically school and the fridge in Brixton, if you remember that, in the 90s. It's now the electrics. But you know, it's like there was very limited sort of sense of where I went, and it was always, when you went there, it was the same sort of group of people. So you went to school and it was like school people, and then you went to the fridge and it was fridge people. And then you went to the Buddhist centre, and like there was fridge people, and well, there wasn't anyone else from my school. That's probably a bit of a relief. But there was someone in a suit, and there was young people, and there was older people, and there was all these people, and they were all together because they really wanted to cultivate love. That was because the first meditation that we did was cultivating loving kindness, the metta bhavana, and I was completely overwhelmed. I just felt. I was a bit nervous as well, and I was suspicious of things. So I talked to the man in the suit. I thought the guy in the suit must be all right. For some reason, in my strange logic, I thought he'd be okay. But I just felt this is it. And we did the metta bhavana, the development of loving kindness meditation, and I just knew, I just felt this is it. I don't know why I know it's it. It just is it. This is something for me here. There's a feeling of a kind of deep rightness here. I've kind of found something of great value. And I think one of my outstanding qualities, if I may say so, is that I know when I'm onto a good thing. I think that's quite a good quality to have, to know when you're onto a good thing and then follow it through. So I've always known when I'm onto a good thing, and I've always followed it through, and it hasn't let me down yet. So I thought, oh well, I'm onto a good thing here, and this is important. I don't know why. But then of course you've got to think about things. You've got to think of the reason why. So there's intuition and then there's reason. There's a kind of reflection of, well, why might this be important? What I did at that point is I started to read a lot of the Buddhist books. In fact, in those days, there weren't as many books as there were tape lectures, actually cassette tape lectures. So I had my Sony Walkman, and I went through all the tape lectures. I think there were about a kind of couple of hundred of them, and I went through and listened to all the tape lectures. Probably when I was meant to be doing my homework or something, but anyway. But I thought about it very deeply, and I think it's just important to reflect yourself on, okay, what is it about meditation? What is it about meditation that's important to me? And I think, I'm going to say a few things, but you can decide whether you think they're true, and whether you think this is they're important to you as well as them being important to me. You can think for yourself what you think about a meditation. One of the things the Buddha said is, he said, it's not my practice to free anyone from confusion. When you have understood the most valuable teachings, then you yourself will cross this ocean. Which I find very moving, actually, in the way he said, you've got to think for yourself, then think what you think is important about meditation, whether you think it works. But I think about meditation that in some ways it brings together two very, very important values for me, and I think for other people, very basic human values. And the first is to feel alive. A lot of the time we can feel quite dampened. We can feel as if life is just kind of passing on, but we're not really part of it in some way. And I think what meditation does is it helps you feel alive and it helps you feel connected, because I think that's the other thing that we really, really want to do, is to feel connected. And a lot of the time we go about that in really, really bizarre ways. So, we've got a family habit in my family of teasing each other, which is kind of basically when I'm teased by my eldest brothers, what I think is they're just saying, I love you, by calling you this ridiculous name. And my name's quite easy to make ridiculous because it's Sanskrit. So Vajratara, you can imagine what they do with that. But in a way, what they're trying to say, they're trying to connect with me. But how they're doing it is just by teasing a lot. And I think underneath that, I think what, in a way, it's an expression of love, because what we really want is to be connected, but we go about that we don't quite know how to do it. And I think meditation gives us a kind of channel for a deeper connection with other people. So it does this, first of all, by helping us feel alive to ourselves. And a few people have said that. I think there's this huge relief that whatever is going on with ourselves, we don't have to deny it. We can just be with our experience. And we got a taste of that from Vajratara in the first half, where he said to relax with your experience. So we can just be alive to what's ever happening without having to dampen it down, or without having to pretend to be someone else. I suppose I never really realise how much of a kind of front I'm putting on until I go on retreat, I think. And then I realise, or in meditation, you can just drop that, so even quite subtle levels. To just be with my experience, with whatever it is. And that's a real gift. To be able to be with one's experience, to be able to be with other people's experience, is a real gift and a blessing, I think, in this world. It's not easy, actually. There's this really lovely story about at the time of the Buddha, there was this prince who'd become a monk, and apparently he'd be sitting in meditation under a tree, just going, "Oh, bliss, oh, bliss." And the monks heard about this, and they went to the Buddha and they said, "Listen, I kind of think that he's just sitting under the tree, just thinking about his former palatial life, and he's remembering it, and he's sort of wishing he was back there. And I think you ought to have a word, you know." So the Buddha calls him and he says, "Are you just sitting under a tree just saying, 'Oh, bliss, oh, bliss'?" And he said, "Yeah, no, I am." And the Buddha said, "Well, what's the reason for that?" And he said, "Well, when I was a prince, I had a guard on my doors. I had a guard for the guards around the palace. I had guards around the district, and I was always anxious. I was always fearful. And now I don't have anything, and I'm completely dependent upon the gifts of others. And all I've got is my experience sitting under this tree. And I tell you, it's bliss. It's real bliss." And I can really feel that, not because I'm a prince and I've never had a guard on my door, but there's a sense of like being able to just let go of defensiveness, of letting go of, in a way, the metaphorical guards by the door, watching what's coming in and what's coming out. You can just be completely who you are in that moment in your own mind. So it's coming alive and feeling connected with our experience and with other people. So because we can be with ourselves, we can be with other people, even if they're going through quite difficult times. And we do a meditation directly for that, which is about the development of loving kindness. And for me, that was hugely important, because I was always told to, that being more loving was a good thing. Like, I knew that was just a basic value in human life, was to be more loving. But I also knew, like Mark and I were saying, that I had limitations, and I didn't know what to do about that. I sort of had this ideal of being more loving, and then I had my actual experience, which was often quite angry and dissociated from other people. And meditation helped me to actually have a path of practice. So it's not just saying be more loving, it's saying how. It's a science of the mind. So you do this meditation, just like anything you take up, you practice it and you get better. I've just taken up Bowron lessons, which is a frame drum. I'm absolutely rubbish at it. Like, I'm really bad. And I'm not just saying that because I think it's probably clear that I don't have a lot of false modesty. I'm not just saying that to kind of comfort. I'm like really not keeping up at all. And I think that's quite a good experience for me, because but it's great. And the teacher's like if you're not keeping up, and I'm thinking, he's looking at me. If you're not keeping up with this, well, that's really good, isn't it? Because if you practice, then you will. And I kind of think about that with meditation. It's like, oh yeah, no, this is the tools. You're in the right place. You're doing the right thing. This is what you actually need to transform the mind. It's a wonderful thing. And it's a very clear process of exactly how to transform mental states. You don't need to leave that to the chance or some sort of mystical teaching or something like that. You just do the meditations and then you transform. That's what happens. So yeah, be more loving. You feel alive and connected to others. You feel alive and connected to the environment around us. So you can start seeing things. So much of our senses are constricted on a day-to-day basis, preoccupations and all the thing that happens in our mind. But with meditation, you're able to see a flower, or a leaf. You're able to see the environment around you, the colours. Just walking down the street, being able to take things in, take other people in, and take the environment around us in. And it can lead to experiences of great beauty. It reminds me a little bit of that film. I don't know if anyone watched that film, American Beauty. It's probably going back a bit. But there's just a scene where there's this, it's either a paper or a plastic bag in the wind. And it's beautiful. And I thought, whoever did that has meditated. Because sometimes you see the most random things. I remember I used to live in Sheffield, and in a bus station which slightly smelled of pee, But there was this big Park Hill Flats, and the sun was shining on it, and there were these flock of birds that just glinted in the sunlight, just in that moment. They just sort of swooped like that. And it was the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen in my life, despite the kind of slight pea smelling and, you know, the craziness of the main bus station in Sheffield. There's moments like that that are just alive to us, and they're so rich and so ordinary. So those things come alive for us as we become more aware. And then there's also awareness of reality itself, which is harder to talk about in a sense. And we will, that's what the theme of the meditation challenge is going to be. We're going to look at this theme of deepening our understanding of reality. But in a way, it's a bit like if you still your mind, there's room for something else to come in, something deeper and more fundamental about the nature of existence. And that does happen too. There's an opening for that to happen. So all these things are very important, and we can reflect on that, and we can read poetry, and we can read about the meditation teachers, but we can also reflect ourselves, like what's happening here and why is it important, what's going on. So there's intuition, there's reason, and then there's experience. You've just got to do it. I think that's the main thing. I also do Qigong, and my Qigong teacher is really hardcore, and if you ask him a question about a move, say, well, you know, why do we do this particular move? Because it's standing form, so it's highly boring. And you have to stand in this position for like 20 minutes. And he said, I said, so what does this do? You know, what does it kind of do? Because I'm standing here for 20 minutes. And he said, well, if you do it for 100 hours in total, then you'll know. So that's their basic thing. So you ask any questions, no, do it for 100 hours, and after that, in total, not in one go, but then come back after that, and we can have a conversation about it. But basically, I'm not going to bother to try and give you the reasons. You're going to do it, and you're going to find out. So that's what the meditation challenge is all about. It's about you just do it, and then you'll find out, and you can see whether you agree with me or not. But that is you and your mind, you know. When you yourself have understood meditation, then you yourself will cross this ocean. No one else can tell you anything, really. All we can do is encourage each other. So we've got these 5 forces, and you'll see a little bit more about this. Quite excited about this. There's a kind of science in Buddhism called mind training tradition, and it notices the problem of kind of deciding to do something and not doing it. So it says, well, you need to gather up the forces behind you. You need to gather up the forces behind you. And the forces that you're going to need are 5 forces. And they are, and don't worry if you forget this, because you'll be given something that will remind you, but the forces are the force of motivation, the force of familiarization, or what I called it on this, repetition, or reminder, the force of reminder, the force of the white seed, the force of destruction, and the force of aspirational prayer. So the force of motivation is that you reflect on why you want to do something. You reflect very deeply, and we'll do a little exercise in a moment of just recollecting why we want to meditate. So the meditation challenge is to meditate every day. Notice it's not specifying how long. So you've got quite a big opening there, you know. I'm going to try and say 20 minutes, but at least, you know, it's better to just do as much meditation as you can. If you don't then think I haven't got 20 minutes, so I'm not going to do it, it's better to then just do 5. But you're going to meditate every day. So you've got to remind yourself, well, why do you want to do this? You know, what's important? And it doesn't have to be a rational kind of, you don't have to write an essay about it or something. It's just something that makes you feel, no, this is that sense of rightness. This is why I'm going to do it. So the force of motivation, recollecting your motivation. And the second thing is the force of, I'm forgetting word because it's actually force of familiarization, but I think that's an odd word, so I put the force of reminder. Because it's a bit like it's very easy to be mindful, it's very difficult to remember to be mindful. So it's very easy to meditate, it's very difficult to remember to meditate. So you've got to remind yourself of this practice that you're going to do. And that's where the Buddhist community comes in, because you've got a load of things to help you with that. So if you've signed up for the meditation challenge already, you'll get these. And if you haven't signed up, please do sign up, because every day you'll get a little reminder. You'll get an email with a video on it that will help remind you to do it. So you can use those. You can use those emails just to remind, oh yeah, no, I'm on the meditation challenge. Because when life takes over, who remembers they're on the meditation challenge? And you know, you're at work and you work late, or you're at the pub and you have one too many or something. You forget about the meditation challenge, and then you don't remember to do it the next morning or something. So it's really important to remind yourself. So you've got a reminder to meditate, and you'll also be given something at the end of the evening to remind you about to meditate. And actually, I could say now, you've got these. Alex did these amazing little postcards with the 5 forces on them. And also, what I noticed is, what we're going to do at the end of the evening is we're going to write. You'll be given these, and when you take them home, you can write on something to remind you of your motivation. But also, it's got a blank side on the back, and I think what you could do with that is, when you get home, is you could put something on the back that sort of symbolises meditation to you. I don't know if you like this kind of thing, but I thought, you could stick pictures or make a little collage or just draw something on the back just to remind you, or write something on the back, just something that reminds you of meditation and why you're doing it, reminding of your motivation. And you've got the force of the white seed, which is action. The white seed means action. I kept the word white seed in because I just like it, because it sounds a bit mysterious, but actually what it means is action. So it's setting up a habit, setting up a routine of meditation. So what I really recommend to you is that you meditate the same time every day. You can do it in the evening, but what I tend to do is if I do it in the evening, life takes over. Something happens and it's very easy just to get too tired and then not do it. So it's actually, if you can, set up a time in the morning to meditate. So you get up and you set your alarm a little bit earlier and you meditate at a particular time. And just do it. Don't think about whether you want to do it or not. Just do it. That's the great thing about living in a retreat centre, is like, we meditate at 7, and that's not a choice every morning, partly because my friend comes and sort of wakes me up and gets me downstairs, and everyone else seems to be a bit more dressed than me. I tend to go down in my pyjamas, I must say, but that's fine. You can meditate in your pyjamas, but just do it at the same time. Do it, set up a practice, do it at the same time. Make it a routine, that this is just what you do with your day, and then you'll carry on doing it. The next one is the force of destruction. So you anticipate what's going to get in your way and you stop that from happening. So for example, you know that if you work too late, you're going to find it difficult to get up in the morning, or you go to bed too late, you're going to find it more difficult to get up in the morning. So you anticipate that and you make sure you go to bed on time. I think the biggest force of destruction, though, is that it's very, very difficult to do things on our own. It just is. It's very hard to keep your motivation going alone. And so I really recommend that you just keep coming to the Buddhist Centre. So we've got these Wednesday night as well as the Monday night. The Wednesday night will go a little bit more into this kind of not just understanding reality on an intellectual level, but allowing it to penetrate into the bones, and become a person of reality. Well, we're all people of reality, but really understanding that at a more kind of deeper and fundamental level and living by that. So come on Mondays, come on Wednesdays, come on the weekend retreat, and just put yourself in a room with other people meditating, because it has its own power that's greater than the sum of its parts, and hopefully you'll have experienced that. And then the 5th one is aspirational prayer. And it's very difficult to talk about this because particularly as this Buddhist centre, and We don't have a creator God. So, but maybe that's what you believe in, and maybe that would be helpful for you. I think what it is, though, that even without that, I'm not making a kind of big theological discussion, you need to feel encouraged, and that somehow, let's say the universe is on your side. That in a way all beings in the world and all the flowers and all the trees and all the animals, when you meditate, are turning around and saying, that is good, that was a good thing. Which actually, if you think about it, is kind of true. You know, I think the world is pretty much a better place when people learn to meditate. And when you get whole communities who take meditation very seriously, I've got experience of that in in our Buddhist movement all around the world, but even particularly in India, where you get whole communities take up meditation. It really affects the whole community. So you can imagine that everyone around and everything around, when you choose to meditate, is going like dead on. Hooray, jolly good, whatever it is. The way our teacher put it is, he said, if you want to pray and work out the metaphysics later. Like, you can have your theological discussion later, that's fine. But if you feel a prayer that comes up from the depths, pray. I think it's a human thing to want to pray and to want to aspire to something. And it doesn't matter who it's to or if it's to anyone at all. But I think that wells up within us, that deep intention, and formulates within us, even if it's a wordless prayer. What we use in Buddhism is we use mantra, which is a kind of sound symbol. But let that well up in you, a kind of aspiration. Yes, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to be. And that will gather your mind. It's okay to have that aspiration. And it's okay to call on the forces of the universe to make that happen. If an aspiration is positive and in line with other beings, it will be fulfilled.